Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Chris Boss podcast. Excited to have another local candidate on our Vote Local series. Now, as a reminder, April 1st is Election Day, and the whole point of starting all of this was to remind you to get out and vote and introduce you to candidates who may be on your ballot and give them an opportunity to share with you who they are, why they're running, what makes them tick. And we've had a blast so far, and I'm excited for another one. Francine is joining us, and Francine is running for the College of Lake County Board, which some of you guys may go and like, what? College of Lake County has a board? And wait, I get to vote for people who are on that board? Yes, you do. And so I wanted to have Francine asked if she could come on and share her story. So we're excited to have her here. Francine, tell us who you are and why you decided College of Lake County Board was right for you.
Well, hi, my name is Francine. Thank you very much for having me on the show, Chris. I am a Lake County resident. I raised my kids here in Lake County. I've been a part of CLC intermittently throughout my career. I also owned and operated early childhood centers in Lake and McHenry County. I started when my daughter was my oldest was 5, my youngest was 3, and my youngest, the youngest one wasn't even born. So I started early education back then, and the programs just grew. I loved being a part of Lake County. Part of my training during my career was being a College of Lake County student, so I took a plethora of classes. So I'm very familiar with CLC, very, very familiar with the early education department. I'm tied to Lake County with the community. I've made huge impacts with my businesses and taking care of families and raising their children in my care and making sure they had a quality education. So I learned a lot about that. And now at the end of my career, since I've sold my businesses in June of 2022, kind of took a year and a half off. And then I kind of started planning my next things in life. And I like education. I like teaching. I like learning. So I saw this opening for the College of Lake County Board Trustee, and I just decided to go for it.
So I think that's fascinating as a former student. I think you're one of the first former College of Lake County students I've talked to that wants to run and be a part of the board. That's fascinating. And then also fully understanding their early childhood program, which is an incredible resource that we have here in Lake County. I think it's cool. You're going from watching out over the education of littles to now watching out over the education of college from one end to the other. And I'm assuming it's because of those things that when this opportunity presented itself, you thought, you know what, this is me.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense with that. So with your background in early childhood education, what are some of the key components of that you think would transfer well into being a trustee for the College of Lake County?
Well, first and foremost, I think having quality programs is very important to the community. And the pathways that the college prepares the student for their careers. That's first and foremost. So like in my early education career, in these formative years, I prepared the young child birth through 5 to go into kindergarten. So I was responsible for creating quality curriculum. I was responsible for a clean environment, for trained and quality educational top talented staff, teachers, directors, everybody that helped me make our centers exceptional. And so we prepared them for school. And our motto was the love of learning, we're a child's place, where the, love of learning. And in this regard, I can see educating college students now and enter into a pathway into their careers where they're going to find something that they're focused on, find a career that's right for them. And the College of Lake County can give them that start if they're not even sure of what they want.
Yeah.
So my middle daughter actually graduated from College of Lake County with her associate's degree because she wasn't sure what she wanted. And she got a high quality education at the College of Lake County. And my goals are to extend that. My goals are to learn a lot more about Lake County, learn about the board, and I'd like to enhance the board with creating more opportunities and better access for students so students can have that quality education that they so deserve.
Yeah, it seems to be a great step. So as a parent, I have twins that are they're now 20, which was really weird when they turned 20. Like when they were 19, I had no problem saying they're 19, but when they crossed over to that 20, it seemed really hard to get those words out of my mouth. One's at a state school in southern or middle Illinois, and one's at a community college here in the area, not COC. They didn't have the program that he wanted. But my whole take in the beginning was, y'all, stay home, work, save your money, go to community college, get your generals done, and then go into whatever you want to do, after that. One took me up on that and is living at home and doing well. The other, because of her programming that she wanted to do, it was not feasible. She's a musical theater major and everything stacks upon it from freshman year beyond. So she didn't have that opportunity to transfer in and do those things. She had to start there as a freshman with that. But there's talk now, I think Governor Pritzker in his State of the State address recently was talking about trying to make community colleges also 4-year degree colleges. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea. I know a lot of students don't have the capabilities of traveling, far to school or going away to school or experiencing that end of college. And I think, whether it's because they want to stay home or they have a job that they love and they want to stay close to home, I think offering a 4-year degree at the College of Lake County makes sense. I mean, I was working on my early education degree, and I had to stop at associates, even though I have a political science degree at NIU. Back then, when I was taking all these courses, working up to my associate's degree, there was opportunity for other programs at other colleges that allowed for cost sharing or reduced costs, for fees, making it way more affordable in early education. But the College of Lake County didn't afford that opportunity. I had to go to National Louis for that. And I couldn't commute. It was too hard. I was running my businesses. They weren't offering anything online yet until like after COVID. And then after COVID, it was kind of too late for me. But during that point of time, I wanted to continue. And I only had to get my 4-year degree at National Louis. And I just did not have the mechanics to make that happen. College of Lake County was right in my backyard. I was already familiar with the school. I've already taken classes there. It made sense to go into a 4-year degree program in early education, but they didn't offer that. So maybe one of my goals would be to work with Governor Pritzker and his policies to extend that opportunity for students to make it a 4-year college in certain disciplines.
Yeah, I think looking at the right disciplines to make sure that's a attainable goal and a feasible goal and a realistic goal for the college with there. I know the College of Lake County also works with some of the other state schools. I think NIU may be one, and I know
Yes.
Southern Illinois, where they can start, and then they offer, there's a satellite campus there on the College of Lake County campus that they can remote into some of these schools. So I think it's worth looking at of like what's in the best interest of the students, what's in the best interest of the state, and what's in the best interest of the taxpayers of how do we make a degree affordable and attainable. And I think with community college, there seems to be 3 different paths, right? You've got your student who just left high school, maybe not sure what they want to do, maybe want to be an affordable beginning of their higher education pursuit. You've got your trade programs, right, or your, like basic, I need X, Y, and Z in order to enter into whatever trade it is, like early childhood education. I know they've got some great early childhood stuff there. There's fire science, there's mechanics, there's a lot of stuff working in businesses. HVAC, yeah. I know builders. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of industry specific things. And then there's the third venue that I was talking with somebody else about, which is like continuing ed or more like adult ed. And they've got just different fun courses. Someone's talking about their neighbor that's learning to play the drums or like learning to play the ukulele. But there's in my regard, there needs to be a balance to it all, because as a taxpayer, part of my property taxes go to the College of Lake County. I don't know if you knew that. If you live in Lake County, part of your property taxes go to support the College of Lake County. So, but there needs to be a feasibility in this of, are we providing, or are you, the board, supervising and providing something that is needed in the community, or something that is just kind of wanted by a few people? So how would you, as a board member, take a high 30,000 foot view and look through the catalog and determine, what is actually needed for the community, what is needed for the college, and what may be some things that we need to take a deeper look into to determine their value and if it's actually needed and that the taxpayers are paying for?
I think because that there's something for everybody there, like you were describing, a 3-track pathway to whether it's a career or the adult learner who just wants to go back and freshen up some skills, whether it be project based, for their job or, taking a certificate, in the HVAC program because the student is now graduating from high school and he wants to go into HVAC or be an electrician or something. Those programs are being offered. I think the college has it right with that. Like looking at the problem is the affordability of it all because taxpayers are paying a lot of money yearly, not only to local school districts, but to College Lake County. So I would want to look in from a 30-foot lens, like you were saying, looking down in and say, how do we make it free without taxpayer burden?
Mm.
How do we manage this, this college and getting literally zero from a taxpayer? How do we raise more money? How do we get it from either scholarships or from the federal government or the state government? How do we do that? Because I think everybody should find in their life at some point in time how to get more educated. It only makes society better. It makes us better parents. It hires our standards, right? As a society. So to put a price on education for me is kind of a backward way of thinking. Like I think everybody should have accessibility to a college or to classes or build on their knowledge. And the way to do that is education.
I think there's something to that. I think there's a balance with that, though, right? I think a continuing education is important no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. I'm a continual learner. I was just this week on, a Zoom learning session for a week in the profession that I'm doing. There's the continuous growth of that. But I think the evaluation of what's being offered in there is what's key, right? If we're offering HVAC, we're offering computers, we're offering things that are necessary to build upon your skills or develop the skills going forward, that's fantastic. And we need to look at that. And I think there's probably some opportunities for business partnerships and union partnerships and, everything else that's floating out there. Now, if we're offering as taxpayers underwater basket weaving that has no real, benefit and value to society, that's another thing we need to look at. And so I think you're getting close on there of like, we need to go through that catalog and look at what's of value to the community that we can offer, or community at large that we can offer, and what's something that's just kind of there for fun. Like, listen, you want to take an underwater basket weaving course? I really don't care, but I don't want to subsidize that as a taxpayer.
Right. That's why I agree with you. I think, taking a hard look at the curriculum and the publications that come out to offer the disciplines and kind of see everything that's laid out in the booklet, I'm sure 96.5% of it is spot on, but we have to pay for it. If we want to go back to school and we want to get a certificate, like right now I'm back in school to get my early education business administration certificate. I'm 3 courses shy. So
are you doing that at CLC? Just kidding.
Yeah. I'm enrolled in CLC and I love it. I love learning. I don't think that at any age we should ever stop learning. I think school is so important in our country. And I think the value needs to be more in school. Like it should be discussed in the home. We always should be attaining and aspiring for more, right? And even if you're thinking as a high schooler, school doesn't really set with me. I think trades, working with my hands is better for women and men. I think that if they're thinking about a career in HVAC or a career as an electrician or computers and they want to take another certificate, I think in order for it to be extremely attainable, it should be free. It should be free. Like it should not put any burden on taxpayers. We should not have barriers to students to access quality education.
So when you say that, though, when you say it should be free for students and there shouldn't be a burden to taxpayers, who's paying for it then? Where are you finding the funds to be able to provide that for free then?
Well, I mean, I have thoughts on that. I think
I'm not holding you to anything. I don't think anyone else is holding you to anything, but when we hear like it should be for free in certain circles, we're like, yes, it should. Everything should be free. Life should be free. But it is a service, and you've got the building, you got the teachers, you got to keep the lights on, you got to provide all these things. Who's paying for that then?
Well, I think the state of Illinois should be responsible in that, because as taxpayers, we already pay 5% on our yearly income, and it doesn't stop there. We get taxed on food. We get taxed in our utilities. We get taxed all over the place, cell phone bills, grocery, gas tax. I mean, all of that is being funneled into taxes into our local government, local townships, the cities and the state. And every year we pay a lot to go to the state of Illinois. And when the governor has a budget in the billions and he's putting his priorities into other topics or other areas that have no bearing on us as Illinoisans, I think that's where we have to reshift our focus and our priorities and say, we shouldn't be putting our emphasis here. We really need value education. How are we going to get our Illinoisans more educated? How are we going to put the value on their education, whether it's an HVAC program or continuing education, or I just want to get my core classes out of the way and go to a 4-year university and get my bachelor's degree. I mean, attaining your master's degree, my daughters are both attaining their master's degree, and it costs them both over $20,000 just for a master's degree. I've heard of master degrees costing $50,000, $70,000. I'm deterred to go back to school to get my master's degree because of the high cost of it. And even though CLC's got low credit costs per credit, it's like $157 a credit, something like that. It's still expensive when you add it up to 12, 15 credits per semester, 2 times a year. And if they don't qualify for scholarships or subsidies or grants or anything, they're left paying for it out of their own pockets. And that's where I think we really need to take a hard look. And if you really want to make it accessible, as CLC says, every student has a right to access college, then make it free. Put it in the state budget.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is there should be additional taxes from county residents to go to CLC, or state. All the taxes that we already pay should be going to fund education and higher education than this. So it's free, but it's not free, right? You're still going after tax dollars, but instead of going after additional tax dollars, we should be utilizing tax dollars that are already taken out and remove that line off of our property tax line and utilize the state funds properly to be able to build an educated workforce here in Illinois.
I would tend to agree with that statement. I think line item on real estate tax property bills should be taken out. I mean, and then you could extend that to the school districts, because as a parent who chose to put her child into a private school versus a public school, I'm still paying taxes to the public school. And then I got to take out additional money to go to the private school. I have never understood that concept. I don't understand why I have to double pay just because I choose to go to a private school, so that in itself is a problem. I think it's very expensive now at private schools. The school I send my daughter to, close to $17,000 a year. And I think the learning model in the private schools, I think they have it right. They teach the kids responsibility. They teach the kids accountability. But at the public schools, we're paying a boatload of taxes to public schools. And then on top of that, to the colleges and the libraries and the parks and everything. And everything is kind of still a mess. We still have residents who can't afford to go to school. Let's face it. I know single moms who can't afford the fees of a high school in addition to their real estate taxes. Warren Township costs taxpayers, or students, I should say, money for registration fees, sports costs, a fee for this, a fee for that. They end up paying an extra $500 every year. That's $2,000 in 4 years just to put their kid through high school, plus their property taxes.
Illinois has one of the highest tax burdens of any state in the union. We have more units of taxing government than any other state, second to Texas. And you look at the land size between the two, like that's vastly different. Our property taxes are some of the highest. And I think there needs to be a look at those and a consolidation of those and a realization of those we pay so much in property tax. It makes housing completely unaffordable. It makes business opportunities completely unaffordable, because why would I come here when I can go right across the border to Wisconsin and start my business or have a warehouse or whatever it is, because property taxes are less. But then there's the balance of that is home values are tied to school districts, and school districts that are better tend to lead to higher home values in those districts too. So it's a complicated process. I don't think there's a simple answer for it. My answer is just get rid of all of it. But
Right.
but then what are we left with in the meantime? And do we actually trust the state to be able to or be able to, in an efficient manner and effective manner, distribute those funds across the state? I would say right now, no, because they're not doing that at all, which then leads into another challenge I think that the colleges are going to have here. Is there seems to be this battle brewing between Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and our president, Donald Trump, where on multiple fronts, they're choosing to fight each other. Where Pritzker is saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm standing up to that tyrant. And Trump is saying, I'm going to make an example now out of Illinois. And us, the taxpayers and residents, are stuck in the middle going,
Yep.
oh. And I think when it comes to the colleges that, I don't know how much federal funding the College of Lake County receives. And I don't know what the percentage of federal funds that come in through the state that then the state pays to the colleges receive. But I think it's something that as a potential trustee, you need to keep an eye on. And so how are you going to look at that? What things you're going to be looking out for? And then what going ahead, what parameters you're going to put in place to make sure that it is a feasible, obtainable, cost-effective way for students to obtain an education if there isn't, or if there's challenges getting state funding coming, or state or federal funding coming into the college?
Well, it's going to have to come down to expenses. It's going to have to be, obviously we need quality staff and teachers. So we can't really, teeter-totter on that. We need top talent. We need good teachers. We need reliable teachers. We need smart, educated teachers to teach our kids. So there's that. But the other things that we have to look at as a budget is, what are we spending our money on? And until I get my hands on the budget, until I could start looking at that and start evaluating from a business perspective lens, I'll be able to start questioning some items and say, do we really need this at this much? Can we forego that? Because as a business owner, that's what I had to do, is balance my budget to make ends meet. I didn't have endless money coming in from taxpayers. I had to price point what the family could afford for care, for me to run the best quality program and operate efficiently based on my fees. And as soon as I started going up, I'm starting to lose, families and students, and my rooms are empty and I still have to keep the lights on. So I think there's that balance. Now we also have to look at what is saved, what's in their coffers, how much money is being built up and stored up. If we have an excess of $50 million, I'm going to start questioning, why do we have $50 million? Are we collecting too much? What are our goals here for the taxpayer? Are we trying to keep everything low, or are we just trying to keep pace with what the rates already are, and then use the excuse next year, well, it goes up anyway, so we get a 3% or 5% increase. And now our coffers are $70 million. And then I'm going to be questioning, why are we collecting $20 more million when we're operating efficiently? And if we cut this out, we're going to start spending less. So we're going to have more money. So maybe we need to start thinking about the rates that we're charging to taxpayers to keep it low.
Yeah, I think you bring a great point. And I think with your background, having run a business, especially dealing with education, now granted, as we talked about, it's on the other end of the spectrum from the college experience, down to the early childhood experience. But you had to do that. You had to look at what can your customers afford and what is needed in order to provide the excellence of service that is desired for those kids in your care. And I think if you translate that well into the college of like, what can the students afford? And then what is necessary and needed in order to provide an excellent experience for those students, you'll get to that answer of what's obtainable, what's real, in those cost structures and in things like that.
Yeah.
And you brought up the coffers. I believe there are some sort of future building projects and things going on, with the College of Lake County. Have you toured? Have you been in the facility? I mean, you were a student there, but and looked through like done a needs assessment or what things you would like to see, happen, on that campus?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I was just there last week and I did tour the campus again in general to see, because it's been a while since I've been on the campus and my class started mid-January. So a couple weeks ago, I went out, toured the campus myself, looked around. There's a lot of improvements, like a lot of green, a lot of green paint, which to me stands out that it's freshly painted and it looks vibrant and colorful. And there's a lot of signage. There's a lot of directional signage. There's a lot of information on their vision, their like basically code of ethics, their inclusion on equity and all that stuff, and access to education. There's tutoring. There's, the library. They've got a room dedicated right off the library with all these paintings by the specific artist who captures pictures from back in the day and blows them up. And they're beautiful paintings and they're all over, and it's history. So, there's a lot going on at the college, and there's a cafe that is amazing. They serve healthy foods. They serve not so healthy foods, but there's
I
a
mean,
lot
they're
of
college kids,
it's
right?
college kids, right? There's Twinkies and donuts still on the shelves, but there's also
They
salads.
still make Twinkies?
Yeah,
That's crazy. All right.
yeah. So there's potato chips and there's stuff like that. They still offer hot dogs, and though not the most nutritionalist, it's what a student is going to eat, right? So I get it. A 19-year-old, 18-year-old, they're going to eat that kind of food. They're used to that. That's comfort food for them. There's just it's very organized. The college. It's big. It's very expansive. There's there's a lot of seating for students to sit and study. There's computer labs. There's accessible computers. So if you don't have a computer, there's copiers. So with that said, I don't think that there's any other major plans. Now that was like the most of the building. And then there's the other half where there's the tech campus. Oh, there's the HVAC system. I didn't see those parts, but the majority of the campus is laid out. There's classrooms, offices, there's the welcome center. There's a lot going on in the college that I was pretty satisfied as a student walking through the halls. A lot of diversity on campus. There's a lot of, students that make up a lot of different backgrounds and languages and culture. And you can see that, and I was very proud to be there. So I'm not sure if they have any renovation plans or anything, but I'm pretty sure the college looks good. And I would be surprised to see if they are going to be renovating anything. There wasn't any renovations going on when I was there. I checked out the early education center. I checked out the playground in the back, checked out the parking lots. Everything looked in great shape.
As a former business owner that would utilize the College of Lake County to gain development, do you see a pathway there for the business college partnerships where businesses, I don't know how it would work. I don't know what percentage structure it would work, where there was almost a fee structure associated with businesses to be able to utilize the college to gain that educated workforce? Or just say, what are the avenues for business college student development partnerships that you would like to see pursued as a trustee?
Well, I think they're already doing that, especially with the manufacturing industry. I think that they are already working with certain businesses in manufacturing to expand on their manufacturing for students, because they're trying, and they've also gotten grants for this too. So they're trying to beef up their manufacturing industry because they know it's a dying field. So they're trying to recruit students to go into manufacturing with grants and working with business owners. So I think that's already occurring. I think it's going to have to be, when I get in there, hopefully if I'm elected, then I'll be able to evaluate this and see what's missing. Because on the forefront, without knowing all the back end information, from what I see, even reading the community boards with, job employment and stuff like that, job seekers like seeking employment and businesses posting their stuff, I really didn't see anything missing. But then again, I'm not in there yet, and I don't know everything on the back end, so it's going to take me some time to learn it. But off the top of my head, I think maybe early education would probably want to be my starting point to see exactly what's going on in the department and how it's being run and how it's looking towards private, like compared to private entities, like such as myself, when I had my businesses. And I'd like to know, what are the differences? Like, what are they doing and what can we be doing differently? And if CLC is the model early education department, I would like to see private centers learn from that and say, you can incorporate this into your environment. And if there's things that the private industry is doing, I think that should be shared with CLC, and it should be more of a collaborative purpose. It shouldn't be, hands off. We're the CLC and we're private. I would like to see more bridge building and more collaboration, because we're all doing this for the kids and we shouldn't have any unshared secrets. Like, we should be able to work together openly and freely, especially for the children, because it's for the children. Like, the children's benefit from it. So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there needs to be the cross collaboration, because if businesses are desiring X, Y, and Z out of their workforce and the college is not providing X, Y, Z, or the college is saying, oh no, we're going to give you A, B, C, then it does the student, the business in our community no good at all with that. And so finding those business partnerships to be able to expand on collaboration to continue the growth that is needed for our students moving forward is absolutely 100%. So as a board member though, and you're a board member, hopefully, maybe. And, I'm a taxpayer, and I don't, it's on my property taxes, and it just comes out automatically. So what avenues of transparency are you going to provide us, the taxpayer? Because I get my little catalog, every quarter or however often it comes through from CLC. I'm like, oh, another thing from CLC. I don't have any kids that go there, and I throw it in the trash. So how do you think the board should function and operate in a transparent manner, in an authentic manner, to communicate to the taxpayers across the county of what's being provided at that college and why it's important?
That's a really good question. I think we need to have maybe more community members get involved, maybe develop a parent advisory board or a community advisory board or a taxpayer advisory board, have them specifically invited to come to the meetings and give them copies of the budget and explain to them what's going on and where our tax dollars are going. But then again, in a perfect world, ideally, I would like to see colleges, because we are the system, right? The governments are the system, the taxpayers are the system, and we have these decisions to make. And I think ultimately, elementary schools, junior highs, high schools, colleges should be privatized, because I know full well, working in the private industry's early childhood, I know I have to make my clients satisfied, and I know I can't go above a certain high amount of fees, or these families, I'm just going to out budget them, and they're not going to be able to afford it. So they'll go to other places. So I think if we are the system and we had our choice, I think government should not put their hands in education. Yes, they should monitor it. I get that, but I don't get how government should put taxpayer dollars into education when we have so many systems already, like private schools and early education centers that are privatized. And all we're doing is competing, right? Because I had to compete against CLC early education centers. I had to compete with Round Lake Park District. I had to compete with these government entities putting in preschool programs. And then taxpayers are like, this must be a better program. And look, they can charge less. Well, yeah, they can charge less because they're using taxpayer dollars, of course. But then the standards fall. And that's my issue, is the standards fall, because they're going to get a paycheck regardless. And maybe they belong to the union, and maybe their job is protected, and maybe they're not going to get in trouble. But in my centers, on my grounds, I can fire somebody without a union behind the teacher. And if they are mistreating a child or not doing a good job in the classroom or repetitively late, I would give them the 3 warnings, and then I'd have to replace them. Yeah. And then on top of that, the wages for government schools are higher than what private schools can offer, right? Because again, it's that balance with the the tuition as compared to what, the government pays teachers and what their weekly tuition fees are compared to what a private program is. And I think if the governments didn't do these systems of educational systems, I think we'd have a better educational system if it was privatized. But as far as transparency is concerned, like your question was, I think we should invite more residents to the meetings. I think we need to get the residents more involved. And I think we should have a more friendlier, easier connection between private businesses and government educational systems. Because I know when I was in early education as a private owner, I had a very difficult time getting through the system of government educational programs. But if the governmental educational programs needed something, they know who to contact and they know who to reach out. And as soon as it's like a power grab. As soon as the government entity reaches out to the private owner, the private owner's like, oh my gosh, I just got a call from the senator, or somebody on behalf of the school district, the superintendent, and I'm at their beck and call. But if it was the other way around, if I needed something from the school districts, they wash their hands of it. I want to enhance that relationship. Get the residents involved. Get them to understand the concepts. Get them to have a voice, a better voice, a louder voice, because we are supposed to be working for the residents, not the other way around. Me as a board member, I'm working for you. I'm working for the residents, and it's a volunteer position. I get nothing out of it. I get no pay. I get no benefits. I get nothing. It's the level of me caring because I'm a taxpayer too. And it's the level of me knowing what's the difference between right and wrong is. And I'm going to go to work for you because my perspective is this right for the family? Is this right for the taxpayer? So that's my level of transparency right there.
I think people are going to realize that too, of like, listen, these guys are volunteering to give up their time to serve on this board and get berated by so many people to do this and run these campaigns, a lot of time financing them out of their own pockets with that. But you mentioned, quality education and private education. And I mean, there's a whole school choice debate. And I think that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time that has little to do with this and, tax dollars going with this, dudes, but privatizing the college. So what would that look like in your eyes? Like if CLC were to be privatized, how would it be affordable and attainable to students without taxpayer funding at all going through that? If there's no state, federal, local taxes going to it, and it's a privatized, entity, what does that look like? And how is that funded? And how is that affordable for students to be able to get to?
Well, if taxpayers didn't have the burden of real estate taxes on their back right now, they would free up tens of thousands of dollars to go towards education every year. And I think it's the quantity of students that they could put into classrooms to make the college affordable at that point, with realizing what the fees need to be compared to what the family can afford. And if they're already saving tens of thousands of dollars, of money every year, that could go towards their child's college. That can go towards their high school. That can go towards their elementary school. It could be privatized to where, hey, I would love to have there's a lot of families right now who don't have kids, right? That have to pay real estate taxes. I don't think it's fair for those families who don't have kids that are paying real estate taxes to go towards these schools. And they can't get a senior freeze until their 65th birthday. So they're being burdened with real estate taxes all the way up until then. That is a killer for families. So if it was privatized, they have options now. They have options where to send their kids to school. And the standards have to be monitored. And maybe that's done by the state of Illinois. I don't know. But all I'm saying is paying taxes year over year for families who don't have children in schools anymore is a burden. And I don't know where all this money is going, but there's millions and billions of dollars out there in the school systems. And I don't know if it's all the pensions. It doesn't make sense to me in my world as a business owner. But if I had to send my one child to private school at $10,000 a year, but I'm paying $17,000 a year every year to real estate taxes, I could afford sending my one child to school. And he's going to get a really good education at that point. Because I know with my numbers and my budgets and my daycare centers, I was able to have quality staff with students in the classrooms, and I had anywhere between 6 to 8 classrooms per center, and I was able to do it. You know,
Yeah,
you're
I
not going
think
to make billions, but you're going to be able to do it. You're going to be able to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that, if we could reduce our tax burden or property tax burden here, it would change a lot of things here in the States. If I give more funds into my pocket as a nonprofit guy, that means I get to give more. That means others get to give more. It means I get to invest more in different things and get to spend my money the way that I see fit in the betterment of, my kids, my family, my community, in those regards. And I would rather choose where my money goes as opposed to being forced to where my money goes as
Right.
these
Right.
automatic tax increases that just keep popping up. And
Right.
every entity on my property tax line is like, well, it's just another $20. It's just another $100. It's just another whatever. I got 18 entities telling you it's just another whatever. And it's like, well, that all adds up to me, the taxpayer. And there's an element of that I think there needs to be an awareness of. And I think you've got that, you're not the only taxing body. The College of Lake County is not the only taxing body that is going after these tax dollars. And there needs to be a bigger, broader awareness for all of those that seek board seats and that are on board seats to understand that you are not the only one asking for more. Like every entity's asking for more. So finding ways to live within your means, finding ways to decrease the tax burden through different incentives, different business partnerships, different union partnerships, whatever it may be that's out there, there's all sorts of opportunities for that.
Chris,
But
did you
Francine,
know? I'm
yeah,
sure you do know this, but let me ask you a question. Did you know that every
good.
commercial
Bring it the other way around. I love this.
Okay. Did you know that every commercial property, which I'm sure you do know the answer to this, has to pay property taxes? Commercial businesses, right? So me as a commercial building owner, I look at my property bill, my property tax bill, and I go, I'm still funding the school districts. And I'm not only funding the school districts as a commercial property owner, but as a residential property owner too. And my residential property taxes are, call it 15 grand. Then I go into my buildings and I'm paying $35,000 a year for property taxes. And as an early education private owner, I was only allowed certain buses to come to my schools. Now, if I had a family that said, I'm all the way on the other side of town, but it's more convenient for me to go this way, drop my kid off at school, continue off on Route 12, and then come back and get my kid and go back. However, when the child hits 5 and is eligible for busing service, because this house is not in my district, they won't send a bus to get this kid, even though the parent is like, hey, I pay school dollars, I pay for transportation. Me as a commercial business owner pays for it, but I can't get a bus to come to so what I had to do is I had to go out and get my own bus, and I had to pay my own teacher, and I had to keep that family. And that's what I'm saying. The value is more valuable to me to have this family stay in my care for the consistency and the level of care and quality that they were getting in my program than to say, hey, no family, Mrs. Smith, you can't come to my daycare because I'm not going to get a bus. I had to spend profit dollars to keep that family. And the schools didn't want to have anything to do with it. I'm like, how do you guys not send a bus? I've got 3 families who belong to this school. Can you guys send a bus? And I'm like questioning them. What do my tax dollars go to? What am I paying if I can't even get a bus to come to my daycare that I'm helping your community with, which is my student, your community member, and they just won't do it.
Yeah, it's a tough it's a tough battle and reasoning when it comes to the property taxes. The reason that manufacturing can't actually facilitate here in the state of Illinois is because you need massive amounts of property in order to have that happen, and the property taxes that a business then has to pay in order to have manufacturing here is just not obtainable. That's why so many businesses move their manufacturing across the border. Look at Pleasant Prairie. Look at just south of Kenosha. The amount of factories and businesses that are building up there and expanding and growing up there because their property tax burden's less. But at the same time, like there's this tension that we're holding here because of how much we've put into property taxes and how much that the communities need those in order to grow, develop, and thrive, that we've got to figure this out. Because at the same time that you want to reduce your property tax burden, which I desperately want, but if we get to a point that our property tax, we're not charging different businesses things and we're impacting our schools and we've got bad school districts, well, then that impacts the workforce because if people don't want to move in the community to be able to work near the community, then it's this cyclical battle forth with that. But I think there's a problem to be solved, and it can be solved, but it means bringing everyone to the table to have those conversations to solve that. When you've got residents, business owners, and entities, at the table together to be able to solve these problems. The problem is, I think so many people operate in silos, only viewing what they've got going on, only viewing what's in front of them, and don't look at the totality of the picture. And as I mentioned before, a lot of that has to do with that tax burden of like, well, we're only asking for a 2% increase, but all 18, 16, 15, 12, however many it is, taxing bodies on my property taxes are all asking for a 2% increase. That hurts me as the taxpayer. So I'm happy to see that you have that mindset of like looking out for the taxpayer, because I think more people sitting on boards, whether it's the College of Lake County school boards, local townships, communities, libraries, they have to have that mindset of, I am sitting on this board to have the vantage point in view and look out for the taxpayers of where those funds are going. So
yes,
we've had a great conversation. This has been a blast, Francine, but I always like to end it with some fun and get to know you as a person, maybe a little different than some of these things. So I've got some questions, random. They may work, they may not work, but if you could switch jobs for anyone for a day, who and what would it be? What would you do?
wow, that's a pretty big question.
Just for a day, you could do anything for a day. What would it be?
Jeff Bezos.
There you go. There you go. To hang on the yacht or actually run Amazon and
No, I actually want to run
Origin?
Amazon. I've got a lot of questions for Jeff Bezos. I would love to know how he did it, how he connected all those deliveries together, how he started online. I
Yeah.
don't know if he had funding or not funding, but that man's a genius. Jeff Bezos is a genius.
I would love to have dinner with him and pick his brain on that, and then also see if I can get invited to the yacht, because that would be fun too.
Yeah, that would
All
be
right.
fun, but yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Jeff
So
Bezos.
after this, you're going to go grab a snack. What's your go-to snack?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of like chocolate chip anything, like chocolate chip cookies, chocolate chip brownies, popcorn with caramel and chocolate chips on it, all melted together.
That's a new. I've not chocolate chips and popcorn.
Yeah, so they
You
make this like, well, they make it like, and it's in a bag, but it's like popcorn and it's like drizzled with the chocolate and it's got drizzled caramel in it. And I can eat the whole bag. It's so good.
My wife would like that. I'm an anti-chocolate guy. I'm not anti it like I think it, but I've never liked chocolate my entire life. It's one of the reasons my wife married me, because she never has to share her chocolate with me. She can leave it laying out, and she knows like I'm not touching it. And, like if chocolate's missing, I'm the last person that she comes to asking. Yeah,
That's
with
a
that.
great
So,
marriage.
what are you reading right now? What's a book that you're reading?
I'm reading my interview principles book for the CLC class. Okay. 128. So I'm on chapter 6. So just had a quiz on chapter 5 and 6. Yep. So I've been reading that on interviewing principles. Yep.
Got a little ways to go then on that. I mean, I'll give you that. It's not like hangout fun read now. It's
no,
business.
It's not.
Let's get the work done.
It's funny because in my line of work in my career, I did a lot of interviewing, and I never knew there was like a label or a word attached to what I was doing as a business owner, like interviewing. And as I'm going through the chapters, I'm like, I've done all this. Like I've done these like strategies, and I've done this to the client. Or the interviewee. I've shaken hands, and there's like words for it, like that describe it. And I'm like, didn't know that. So I'm learning all these new words.
I need to read this book now as I'm launching this and figuring this out too.
Yeah.
All right, Francine, what's your go-to coffee order?
Okay, so that's an easy one. I go to Dunkin' and I do iced coffee lattes with almond milk. And I do not like the sweeteners like NutraSweet or Equals. So I buy what's called monk fruit. And I keep it with me all the time in a little container in my car.
Yep.
And I'm just going like this. And people are like, what is that? I'm like, it's my drugs. So I'm like sprinkling it into my latte.
It does not. It looks a little sketch if you got pulled over and it was not labeled. Like if you dump that stuff into a plastic baggie and had to hang it out in your car, that would not be a good thing.
I'd be like, here, taste it. And they're like, that's the drugs. I'm like,
I
yeah,
cannot do
okay.
that. Yeah. Are you iced coffee year round, 30 below zero? It doesn't matter. You're drinking iced
Yep.
coffee.
I just had one today. I just had one today from Dunkin'.
My wife's the same way. Iced coffee year round. I'm like, I don't get it. But then again, I'm the hot coffee year round. It can be 120 out. I'm like, I need my hot coffee in the morning. It's who I
Yeah.
am. All right. Go to karaoke song.
God.
I'm not going to make you sing it. Just,
Yeah, don't make me sing it. God, there's so many songs. I mean, anything from country to rock. Let's see, maybe karaoke song. Maybe AC/DC Back in Black.
all right. I want to see this one now. This is on the list to see Francine sing that. Do you like kick the leg up and do the guitar thing too?
Oh yeah.
All right. Any shows that you're binging right now on Netflix or Hulu?
So I heard that Suits, because I'm a big fan of Suits, and I heard that they had a spinoff called Suits LA. And
Okay.
it just started. I started the episode last night. They're younger characters. They're supposed to be portraying like Harvey and Rebecca and everybody on the show. But I don't know. I'm in love with Suits and I just couldn't get into it. So
So I don't know if you're going to get into this one. All right.
I don't know if I'm going to get into it. I don't know. I know people are like, watch Breaking Bad. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm not that kind of person like to watch those movies. I'm more like the attorney, doctor, kind of thing. I watched that.
Yeah, I had a friend's like, oh, you got to watch, was it Walking Dead, the zombie one? I'm like, okay. Put it on like a minute and I'm like, nope, not for me. That is just not my, I heard it's fantastic and people love it and they get into the storyline. After the first like 2 minutes, I'm like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah, I don't watch The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, New Orange is Black. I did watch The Resident, and that was a really good one. I watched every single episode in like 4 days. There was like 150 episodes. I like couldn't stop. I was like watching it all.
Fantastic. Well, Francine, thanks for coming on. It's been a great conversation. I hope you guys have gotten to know her a little bit better. Remember, April 1st is election day. Most people do not vote in local elections because they don't know who to vote for. And you probably didn't even know that you had candidates running for the College of Lake County Board and that you could vote for them. So April 1st, make your plan, get out and vote. Early voting starts, I think it's March 17th.
March
Before that,
7th, I think. March 7th, I think, in some areas.
even earlier, so we'll post stuff later and you can figure that, or we can help you figure those things out. But make your plan, vote. April 1st is right after spring break for a lot of people, so make your plan, vote, be informed. Your property taxes, the things that everyone complains about. When I was knocking door to door as a state rep and as a township trustee, everyone's like, what are you going to do about property taxes? This is what you do about your property taxes. You find the right people, you get them on the boards, and you show up and vote locally. So as a reminder, conversations don't equal endorsements, and I've opened this up to anyone who's running for local office. If you want to sit down and have a conversation, I'm here. I'm open. I would love to sit down with you. Francine was one that reached out and said, hey, Chris, I hear you're talking to people. Let's talk. So Francine, thanks for coming on today. It was a great conversation. Best of luck, and we'll keep an eye on your election. And maybe post April 1st, we'll have a follow-up conversation.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This was great. I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks, Francine. And guys, remember, April 1st, get out and vote.